Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes. I'm Barry Bryson. We're coming to the end of the book of Zechariah. We're in chapter 14, the final chapter. It will take us 3 days to get through the final chapter, the 21 verses of it. We're going to be looking at verses 1 through 9 today. And in the last several chapters, really throughout the book, but especially in the last several chapters, I think the images become more vivid and more confusing, but embedded in these sections are specific prophecies that we can recognize. And they're adding up to a very long list. And at the end of our study, I'm just going to mention all the things that we're told about the Messiah and the Messianic age, quite specifically in the book of Zechariah. And it's going to be a long list. Let's read verses 1 through 9 today. Behold, a day is coming for the Lord, for Yahweh, when the spoil taken from you will be divided among you. For I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to do battle, and the city will be captured, and the houses plundered, and the women raped, and half the city exiled. But the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as when he fights on a day of battle. And in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which is in front of Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives will be split in its middle from east to west by a very large valley, so that half of the mountain will move toward the north, and the other half will move toward the south. And you will flee by the valley of my mountains, for the valley of mountains will reach to Azel. Yes, you will flee just as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. And it will come about in that day there will be no light, the luminaries will dwindle. It will be a unique day, which is known to the Lord, neither day nor night, but it will come about that at evening time there will be light. And it will come about in that day that living waters will flow out of Jerusalem, half of them towards the eastern sea, and the other half towards the western sea. And it will be in summer as well as in winter. And Yahweh, the Lord, will be king over all the earth. In that day, Yahweh will be one, and his name one. Okay. Well, verse 9 quite clearly refers to the confessional statement that we have in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. So it has reference in the same way that chapter 13 ended with a key phrase, the covenant, the marriage covenant between God and his people. This section ends with the confessional statement of Mosaic Judaism. Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one. What's being described here? Well, we got places we recognize, like the Mount of Olives. The Mount of Olives was an olive grove when this was being written. It would become a public park, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Garden of the Olive Press. And of course, Jesus is going to be betrayed and arrested there. And his arrest is referred to in chapter 13, verse 7. So if this is connected in some way, I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't understand how. Mount of Olives is a key place. No light, not day, not night, but evening. I don't know. But and then the fleeing. You know, Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70. Maybe this is talking about that. And the Christians fleeing the city of Jerusalem in AD 70 before the Romans destroyed it. And it was quite miraculous the way that the Christians had the opportunity to get out of the town before it was destroyed. And maybe it's talking about that. I don't know. But the siege was lifted temporarily, and Christians fled because Jesus had warned them about Jerusalem being destroyed. And maybe this is referring to that. Azel, or Azel, probably the same city as Beth Azel, which is described in Amos chapter 1, verse 1, and Micah chapter 1. I'm mixing up my references here. But Beth Azel is known in the Old Testament. So it's probably the city of Ozel. But Micah 1:11 and Amos chapter 1 verse 1 both refer to the earthquake. The earthquake. We don't know about it from any other source other than the references in the prophetic literature, but it happened during King Uzziah, and it was such an important event that, hundreds of years later, he can talk about, Zechariah can talk about the earthquake during the reign of King Uzziah, and everyone knows what he's talking about. Okay, that's as good as I can do with these 9 verses. We end with the Lord being the one, the only one, and he's going to reign supreme in verses 10 through 15, which is what we'll talk about next time. Thank you for joining me for 5 Good Minutes.